Republican presidential candidate, former Florida Governor Jeb Bush, talked with some young professionals in New Hampshire. Afterwards, he spoke to reporters about Donald Trump's proposal to ban Muslims from entering the U.S. Governor Bush is joined by former Pennsylvania Governor and Homeland Security Secretary Tom Ridge, who endorsed his candidacy for president earlier this year. This is just over an hour.
You gonna do it?
I saw your name on the list. Dr. Stephen DeSalvo, the president of St. Anselm College.
Well, welcome. Welcome to the life of the party. It's great to have you here. This is a wonderful opportunity for students to meet candidates. This is a conversation, and we're thrilled to be here. I want to particularly thank Bank of America and Stay Work Play for their sponsorship of this series of events. Our goal is to have every candidate come and participate in this series. So it's a great opportunity for you to meet candidates up close and personal. So welcome to St. Anselm College, and I will hand it off. Welcome, Governor.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon at this point, just barely. Thanks all for being here today, and welcome. I am Kate Lesko. I'm the president and CEO of Stay Work Play New Hampshire. I just want to give you a little bit of a snapshot, the idea behind this event. We're looking for an opportunity to get to know the presidential candidates differently than you might hear elsewhere. So we're looking for questions that promote conversation, questions that might be of particular interest to you folks. So we've aimed this at a 20 and 30-something audience. The idea behind Life of the Party is to get to know someone as if they were hosting a party, right? What would they wear? We'll get into those questions in a little bit. So before we get started, I want to ask our other moderators to introduce themselves, but also for today, we do have a hashtag if you're on Facebook or Twitter. Certainly take advantage of those. It's Life of the Party NH. So Chris?
Thanks, Kate. I'm Chris, everyone. I live down in Nashua and lived up here in Manchester for a couple of years. Worked at the Manchester Chamber of Commerce and then ran the Nashua Chamber of Commerce for the past 9 years. So I've been involved with the Manchester Young Professionals Network and with Nashua's Young Professionals Network, and sat on the board for Stay Work Play for a number of years.
Thanks, Chris. Carmen?
Hi, I'm Carmen Lorenz. I'm the director for the Division of Economic Development for the state of New Hampshire. I'm from up in the Lakes region, and I'm a proud board member with Stay Work Play.
Mike?
I'm Mike Skelton. I'm the president and CEO of the Greater Manchester Chamber of Commerce. I'm also a board member with Stay Work Play and a former board member of the Manchester Young Professional Network, and live here in Bedford, New Hampshire, and I'm a graduate of St. Anselm College. So Fantastic. We're glad to have you here at St. Anselm College at the New Hampshire Institute of Politics today, Governor Bush.
Thank you.
So we wanted to kick it off with a question about how you're doing, how your campaign's doing, and how you're doing as a candidate. Because I think one of the things that us observing the political race, observing this process, is wondering how candidates can endure and what you do to keep yourself fresh. What's your process for recovering after those debates, or just your travel schedule, going to and from multiple events? I know you're flying in and out of New Hampshire almost constantly. So what's that like, and how do you keep yourself moving as a candidate?
Well, it's not much different than in terms of energy expended than my adult life. I mean, I've worked hard ever since I got married when I was 21 and started working when I was 21, and have never taken more than a week off. So that sounds weird today, I guess. But it's really kind of who I am. I like working, and whether it was being governor where I was all in, I just finished writing a book called Reply All that was about my emails during my time, and probably had a couple of million emails, but the emails that I responded to were easily 300, 400,000, something like that. And so I've lived a life that I get energy from working. So this is not different in that regard. What's a little different is that I'm away a lot. I'm gone 5 or 6 days a week, and soon probably even more. And I miss my wife. I miss sleeping in. I bought a really cool bed. Things that now I take for granted. I got a really good bed. I mean, this is a bed that is like, it costs about like a Yugo or a Hyundai. It's a pretty expensive bed. It's beautiful. I sleep well.
Well, there's nothing like your own bed anyway, right? So on top of that.
Those are the simple things you kind of yearn for in this journey. I wake up each day excited about the journey that I'm on. I work out every day. This morning I was in the Hilton Garden Inn gym. It's a tiny little place. There were 6 guys already there when I got there at 6 in the morning, so I did my 100 push-ups, and I do, 100 sit-ups, excuse me. I don't do that many push-ups.
That'd be impressive.
So now you're just bragging. Come on.
I don't do that many. So I stay in good shape physically. I try to read, which is hard to do. I try to stay current. I'm curious intellectually, and I like my intellectual curiosity to be fed. I don't push aside information. I like information. If I see something interesting, I'll take the time to call people. One of the powers that anybody can use, really, it's not really related to being a candidate, but I learned when I was governor particularly the power to convene. Mm-hmm. People actually are honored that you ask for their advice. I mean, you should try it. Read an article, or someone that may be a leader in New Hampshire that you really think has got an interesting point. Call them up and ask their advice on something. There's a better than a 50-50 chance they'll take you up on it. Yeah. And I find that to be fulfilling for me to keep me going.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's great, Governor. And I think a lot of the things you just mentioned, we want to ask a little bit more about and get to know you a little bit more personally. I wanted to mention that we have a few people with microphones, and we want this to be interactive and informal. So if you have a question, raise your hand. I'll recognize you. We want to get your questions on different topics. But I want to hand it over to Kate, who has a question to kind of tee us up in line with the theme of today's event.
Sure. So the idea being, if you're elected president and you're able to invite, let's just say, the top 40 young professional leaders from around the country
I thought just New Hampshire.
We'll start there.
A big piece from New Hampshire. To a party at the White House, what would that look like? What music would you play? What would you serve for food? What activities would you do?
This reminds me of an event that actually took place in the governor's mansion. What's it called? The Briggs-Meyer?
Yeah.
You ever taken that test?
Personality.
So the Secretary of the Department of Children and Families decided that we all should take this test. And about 50 of us took it together, and she was the moderator. And it turns out I'm an introvert, and I'm a this and a that. I forgot the other parts of it. And so they broke up the two groups between extroverts and introverts. There were like 40 extroverts in one room, and there were about 6 of us. And we were supposed to plan the party that you just described.
Just the introverts?
Well, the introverts would plan their party, and the extroverts would plan theirs. So we quickly decided that we were all going to read a book that week, and then we would have an interesting dinner conversation that would be over early about the book that we read. And the extroverts didn't plan their party, they started partying. Right. They literally got a conga line together, and they came into our room to mock us about how serious we were. So I don't know. I have to be careful about it. I would actually probably try to learn from the 40 most talented young professionals rather than kind of tell them whatever I was thinking. I found that to be a good leader, you have to listen and learn first. So I would try to mine the knowledge and the experience of younger professionals. So it might actually have to be something that would be serious. I apologize.
It'd be more of a house coffee rather than a party.
Well, I'll give you snacks for it.
All right, so let me follow up on that then. If you were to invite certain people to the party, I'll give you 3 that you can invite. 2 have to be historical figures, and they can't be past presidents. That's too easy. So give us 2 historical figures and 1 current celebrity that you would want to put into the mix.
Celebrity.
And why?
I wouldn't invite Donald Trump. Leaders. Winston Churchill is probably the guy that I most admire just because of the range of his experience and knowledge, and his life experience is extraordinary. He was an artist. He wrote prolifically. He was a wartime leader like no one else. He saved, based just by the sheer determination in his leadership, he saved the country. He was phenomenal. He fought in wars. He reported on wars. He changed parties. He defied the conventional wisdom of his time. Just sitting and listening to him rap, giving him a brandy and a cigar. We'd have to be outdoors probably if that was the case, but that would be well worth it. I don't know. I would have loved to meet and have a conversation with Neil Armstrong. I think discovery of space is something that is deeply underestimated in terms of its how uniquely an American experience that is, and how phenomenal it is for us to maintain our space program. To talk to someone that actually was the first to walk on the moon. Wow. I mean,
pretty cool.
He's left us, but and in terms of presidential leaders, there's a whole lot of them we could learn from for sure. The greatest president in my mind was Abraham Lincoln or Washington. I'm related to Franklin Pierce. He would not be on my list. But I had to mention, since we're in New Hampshire, he's on my mother's side of being a relative. But I think Lincoln would be just a phenomenal person to learn from.
And what about the current celebrity?
The current celebrity, I don't know. I really don't believe in celebrity. No. I just don't. I find it superficial. There's not really many actors that I got into a big fight with Matt Damon about school choice, and I don't know. It just seems so superficial. I'd rather be with people that have done things.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does.
Well, I'll switch it up a little bit. So I found out that you majored in Latin American studies when you were in college, and I did too. And
really?
I also
What
did
school?
my study abroad in Mexico. I was at George Washington University in D.C.
Pretty good program.
Yeah, it's a great program. And I
Did you have a boyfriend like I had, a girlfriend?
in Mexico?
Yeah.
Oh, no, I didn't actually, but
That was my motivation.
all right.
I had a Latin American affair before I majored in Latin American studies.
Nice. Well, I was just really curious about how your experience in college and sort of studying another culture and then doing that exchange, how that shaped you at such a formative time.
Well, it was really I went to Andover down the road here, and we had a trimester system. So for one trimester, I went to León, Guanajuato, Mexico with 8 or 9 of my colleagues, 10 maybe, and we built a schoolhouse in a rural area outside of León. And I met my wife at the very end of that time, and so, I mean, I spoke Spanish okay. People that say they're fluent sometimes really aren't. I would say I was one of those. I probably bragged that I was fluent, but I wasn't. And I fell in love with her. I was 17 at the time, and everything in my life can really be defined before Columba and after Columba. I got out of school in two and a half years, but I took a semester off. So she just got me going. I wanted to marry her literally on the spot. That was not possible. And my interest in Latin America really was principally driven by her. So it was it's kind of a backdoor way to the degree. We lived in Venezuela. Okay. And I live in Miami, which has got one foot firmly planted in our country and one in Latin America. I love the region, and I think it's important for us politically and diplomatically and economically to be more tied to the region. And my life experiences, helped me along the way. If it wasn't for meeting Columba, though, I wouldn't have been a Latin American Studies major probably. I wouldn't have gotten out in 2 years. I wouldn't have moved to Miami. I wouldn't have lived in Venezuela. Life happens that way. You can't plan it.
That's right.
I find people your age, by the way, spend too much time trying to plan it out. There ought to be a little more spontaneity. It's a lot more fun.
Just while we're on that topic, I've heard you talk about how that experience in your life has informed your views on immigration, which is obviously a big discussion during this campaign. So could you talk about how it has informed your views? And I think the question a lot of us are wondering, given how this is such a hotly debated issue, is what is the answer? How do we address this issue in a reasonable way?
On the broad question of immigration, what makes us an extraordinary and exceptional country is that our shared values define our national identity and our citizenship. We're the only country really that has that at its core. In most countries, it's race that defines it. The Japanese are Japanese. If you show up, it's very restrictive. It's based on race. They have an incredible culture, but it's a different kind of citizenship than what we have. And our strength has been historically that we embrace a set of values, and it doesn't matter what we look like or whether we have a vowel at the end of our name or where you're born, where you come from. And we're losing that. So the immigrant experience is part of our heritage, and it's been really a reason why I think we're the most creative country in the world and the most innovative. We lose it because we don't control the border. We lose it because the rule of law doesn't seem to apply like it should. And we lose it because we now have political leaders that like to divide us up in our disparate parts. Is there a set of common values now that define American citizenship? We have to have a much stronger belief in our heritage, our past. I don't know if you guys see those TV shows where they stick a microphone in someone on the streets of New York and they ask them, how many Supreme Court justices are there, or how many branches of government. It's a little scary to say the least. So just going back to the basics, I think would make immigration a catalyst for a lot of good things. But if we don't have a set of shared values, if we don't have a common identity about what our heritage is that people can't buy into, it's a problem. And right now it's being preyed upon in the political sphere.
And what role do you think the next president can play in doing that? Is it about leadership?
Yeah, we got to fix the damn thing. I mean, but you could say that little line just about for everything. Taxes, regulation, healthcare. We have to start fixing things. And the immigration system is broken. The legal system is broken. Think about it. We have family petitioning being the driver of 90% of all legal immigrants. So spouse and minor children, which you would say that's a definition of family, right? That every country has, and we have adult siblings and adult parents on top of that, and it's chain migration has taken effect. Basically, we crowd out all other forms of immigration. So fixing that, fixing our border, dealing with the fact that people extend their stay when they have a legal visa. We now have to look at the threats of terrorism and deal with that. We have, the visa waiver program for European countries principally, and some Asian countries allows for expedited entry into our country. Well, now, gosh, I mean, we have citizens of Europe that are, pledge their allegiance to Islamic terrorism, and we should not make it easy for them to come in. So that we have to adjust our laws going forward. But to protect our legal immigration system, we have to make sure that coming here legally is a lot easier than coming here illegally. And that's what's been missing in the last few years, and we have to restore that. So fixing it, how do you fix it? Well, you just roll up your sleeves and benchmark. You do what businesses do. You do what we do in our lives, right? You say, here are our objectives, here's the strategy. You make sure you convene. You make sure that people are on target. There's money to build the places where a wall is appropriate. There's funding for it. There's funding for border security, but we need to get them on the border. There's funding for, the GPS technology and the drone technology that could help us. The Congress has funded the exit and entry biometrics to make it easier to track where people are when they come here legally and overstay their visas. We just need leadership to monitor it and make sure that we're applying all of the tools at our disposal to make it happen.
If I could, I'm going to take you back out of policy and get more to you personally for a second. I'm curious.
Just don't go boxers and briefs on me.
No. You made a comment earlier about being very thoughtful, growing up as a kid, college student, et cetera.
No, I wasn't thoughtful as a kid.
That was after you met.
After you got married.
AC, not BC.
I was a big fan of the Hardy Boys books growing up. I'm curious what you would have read when you were a teenager in college, et cetera, and then beyond. And would you consider any of the books that you read really formative?
The books that had the biggest impact on me were the books that my Spanish teacher, Angel Rubio at Andover, required me to read, because not only they were the great works, I had to read Cervantes and Miguel Unamuno, these extraordinary writers, and I didn't think I could do it. I don't even remember what the books were about, to be honest with you. Just the fact that I could read it was like, wow, I'm actually capable more than I thought I was. I was capable of doing things I couldn't, they pushed at this school. It was like a gigantic root canal. I had a headache the whole time. It's so hard. But ultimately, I figured out how to do things. And so whether it was reading, the Cervantes book was like 600, 700 pages long in Spanish. When I started, I didn't think I could finish it. And when I finished it, I said, well, maybe I can do calculus. Yeah. I mean, that kind of experience has had a lasting impact on me, because I think everything we do, we should be raising expectations on ourselves and others, rather than lowering expectations to excuse away why people aren't achieving what they could achieve. The books I read now are all over the map. I read mostly to learn. I'm reading the biography of my dad. Surprise, surprise there.
Anything surprise you?
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, there are things I didn't know about. He had a diary, and he was pretty disciplined about writing in it. And he had doubts about himself, doubts about where he was in life that I never saw. I mean, I always saw him totally in charge. I mean, I idolized the guy. So it was an interesting insight that he was a human being, upset when he lost and happy when he won. It's kind of strange, but when you're a son of someone, you don't get those kind of insights. and how he learned from his the job of being head of the liaison office and the director of the CIA that put him in good stead when he became president.
Thinking about your dad, both professionally and personally, because you know him like no one else could, obviously.
Well, apparently I didn't, because
What would you want to emulate most about your father? And then, on the flip side of that, what would you want to perhaps do very differently from what your father did?
You know what? I was in my mid-20s. I was married. I had 2 kids. I was working, and my dad. You always try to. If you have a good relationship with your family, you try to be, the man your dad was. That expression actually, I think, happens to a lot of us. And I realized if I tried to achieve what I thought my dad was, that I would get about 50% of the way there. And I could either accept that as, a traumatic experience and kind of go get therapy and live a miserable life, or I could accept being half the man my dad was, or is, and still live a life of purpose and meaning. I mean, that's how high I think I just idolize the guy. I think he's the greatest man alive. So it's really hard to emulate him because I think he's near perfect. You don't know him, I'm just telling you. Yep. He's decent. If I could be better in my life, it would be to always be kind and generous and decent to people. Not just the big dogs, but everybody, because that's my dad. He treats the person, that is serving in a hotel the same way he would treat a head of state. And just to be grounded that way, everything else kind of flows from that. And not worry that strength is not defined by the volume of your voice or, the outrageous things you say. It's the fortitude and the integrity that you show when people aren't watching. So I can't think of anything that I would not want to be like my dad. I can promise you that.
So
go ahead.
I have another question, but I see we do have a hand up in the audience. Do we have some questions?
Do you have the microphone?
Yeah,
Can you bring that? Yep, right there.
Hi, thanks for taking a question about federal contractors. So right now, if you're a federal contractor, you can lobby the government with money. You were paid by the government to do that job to get more money. And I was wondering if you would support a requirement that federal contractors disclose all their political spending.
Yeah,
lobbying
I think there ought to be total transparency about lobbying. It ought to be posted on the internet who you've seen, whether it's a top staffer or an elected official within 24 hours, and the monies you use to lobby and the monies you use to provide support for campaigns ought to be completely transparent.
Another question right over here.
Hi, Governor. My name is Steve Singlar. I'm with Single Digits. How are you doing today? I want to ask your advice.
Uh-oh.
Just kidding. So I've seen you a couple of times now, and what's interesting is sort of you're very personable. You clearly know a lot of the issues. You have a lot of good experience. And as we get to the issues, I started yesterday, as a matter of fact, and I was really impressed with the way the conversation went, how you worked the crowd. Everyone was really into it. You were really in the den of the Democrats, too. I don't know if you knew that or not. But at the end, 2 words came up, gas and oil. And it seemed, gas and oil came up. And it seemed like there was sort of a little bit of an air went out of the room of, there's those issue points again. So my question really is, how are you going to use your personality, your charm to sort of get through those topics where you're not sort of pigeoned into this, it's gas and oil issue on why the economy is doing well or not doing well? I think your points were very valid, but I think the concern is just that topic, and how do you get over that?
Well, I mean, the oil and gas sector is one of the great success stories of our economy. And we need to be hitting it on all cylinders. We need to make sure that we grow at a far faster rate rather than try to suppress the things that are to our huge advantage. We should support it. Information technology is one of those. We lead the world in our innovation in those 2 sectors. We lead the world in drug discovery, but we're making it harder with the FDA and the rules on top of the FDA to increase the cost of getting a drug to market, and certainly the time. And we create just basic uncertainty across the spectrum of economic activity. So, look, I didn't feel the room going away from me when I talked about the energy revolution in our midst. And I also think that the next disruptive technologies are in someone's garage, not inside the Department of Energy with a venture capital arm. So the world is going to be dramatically different 5 years from now, 10 years from now, as it relates to energy. It could be that someone will figure out how to store nuclear waste and to be able to build a nuclear plant in a time frame and a cost that allows it to be the best renewable source of energy in the world over the longest period of time. I'm not smart enough to know what the world holds. I just think you need to create the freest environment where whatever that is happens at the fastest pace. And the friction that we create by getting government more involved slows things down rather than accelerates it. So I appreciate the generally good words about my efforts yesterday. Here's what I love about New Hampshire. New Hampshire is a place where you actually can complete a sentence in the English language and you can ask someone, well, what do you think? And they'll tell you. And it's normally a really interesting conversation. That's kind of being lost in the way that some people campaign. And y'all have maintained that tradition, and it's really important that you sustain it for sure. And I'll be up here a lot. Look forward to the next event.
Hi, Governor. My name is Amy Curry. I work for the Community Development Finance Authority. And something you said earlier about government slowing things down.
Yeah.
We work with federal funds. And not only does it make the projects more expensive, but it definitely slows them down. Do you have any solutions for that and how we can get these important projects done without making them more burdensome?
Absolutely. In fact, the timing of this is perfect because I think at noon we unveiled a state-federal initiative that Attorney General Scott Pruitt headed up for me with people mostly from outside of Washington that laid out a blueprint about how to shift power away from Washington. So we give money from Washington to states, and then you get your money probably through the state, and there's very few rules from the state, but it mostly just a flow through. But we embed in that money all sorts of rules that basically make the whole point kind of obsolete. Whether it's Department of Transportation money, where now costs are probably 30, if you didn't have the federal rules as it relates to how to build a road, you could save 30%, and you could probably accelerate the time to build a road by about 30%, if not more. To build infrastructure in the United States today to get a permit, or the myriad of permits from the federal government, can take 10 years rather than 2 years. We couldn't build the interstate highway system anymore. And so across the board, I think the answer, wherever possible, is to assume that states and local governments actually care about the constituents and their mission. Maybe more than the federal government, rather than the opposite, because people in Washington think, well, we're going to have a race to the bottom. The minute you free up money and don't create a bunch of rules around it and just give the money to the states and allow them to decide what to do with it, somehow the states don't have the interest of their constituents at heart. And just imagine what it could be if the money came and say it was a fixed amount rather than a growing amount, but you didn't have the rules that you had to comply with and the forms you didn't have to fill out. That's the mission of this federal state initiative, both in terms of rulemaking and spending. And what we have proposed is creating block grants for Medicaid, block grants for the CBDG money, which is I think what you're getting, block grants for Department of Transportation monies, and create a relatively fixed cost for the federal government in terms of the money coming down, but eliminate the rules. So you could actually do what everybody should have the chance to do in life, which is to answer the following question. If we weren't doing it this way, how would we do it? That is where the fun part of life comes. If you have the ability to answer that question and really have the chance to start anew, think of how much innovation could take place. And I think that's what we need to do. Our government in Washington operates as though it's 1975.
So in the time we have left, I know we want to jump around to a few other issues, maybe some more personal questions, young professional issues. I just want to ask one more policy issue, and certainly one that's tied to kind of the news of the day. With recent events, national security and foreign policy have really taken center stage in this race. And what do you view as, is ISIS the most serious external threat to the United States right now, or is there multiple layers to this that we need to consider?
Well, I'd say there's clearly more than one threat. We have the threat of nuclear proliferation. We don't talk about North Korea. People just joke because the guy wears funny clothes and that's it, but they're actually testing their capabilities. And whether they have the capability today to strike the west coast of the United States or not is in question, but they might. That's a serious question. Pakistan's ability, if there's a regime change there, if they lose their stability, could be a challenge. The Saudis and the Persian Gulf countries viewing Iran as a threat and trying to build the same capabilities that Iran now has at least on the threshold of having, is a threat. But ISIS and radical Islamic terrorism has now emerged perhaps as the most immediate threat. And all of these require American leadership. I think the lessons of history is that we can't do this alone. We can't be the world's policeman. We can't just kind of at the drop of a hat say, well, we're going to go solve this. We have to do this, though, leading, because no one else can lead in the free world. No one has the capabilities of the United States. And if we don't accept that responsibility and, frankly, opportunity, then we'll have a void that is created. And the void right now is a caliphate the size of Indiana with at least 30,000 battle-tested Islamic terrorists that are organized to destroy our freedom. They see our freedom as our weakness, and they're going to attack it every possible way. And it's not a law enforcement exercise. It's a war on us. Whatever we call it, we have to recognize it for what it is. And so a new strategy is necessary to destroy ISIS, not to contain it. And that should be the highest priority of this president. Sadly, it's not.
And what case would you make that you're the person Americans should trust you to solve that problem?
Well, first of all, I laid out a comprehensive strategy to do it. I'm not talking about, preying on people's angst and fears. I've got to speak at the Reagan Library 3 months ago with a full-blown strategy before Paris and before San Bernardino and those tragedies that unfolded. This was a threat 3 months ago as it is today. I think part of being a leader is to anticipate what the challenges are and act on it. Secondly, I was a governor. Governors actually have to make tough decisions. And in Florida, we made a lot of them, just by the nature of our state, including being Commander-in-Chief of the Florida National Guard. I went to Iraq and Afghanistan to see the troops that were there. They ran the Abu Ghraib prison after the problems that existed. We came in, our guys came in, 14-hour days, 13 to 14-hour days in 95-degree heat. These are police officers and firemen and pharmacists and accountants that did this because they loved their country. And I provided support for every one of those in every way possible. I called all of the Floridians that died in the line of duty that I could. And I think I have an understanding, just having a front row seat to watch other presidents, just a unique circumstance here, that what it is to be Commander-in-Chief and what it is to the seriousness of the job. It's a serious job. It's not a job that you can take lightly. You can't, the language of a president really matters. And in a political environment that's really heated, it's a slight disadvantage to recognize the constraints. You can't just talk trash. Think about the president's problems that he has faced. The red line, that's a disaster. And he talked off teleprompter, I'm sure. I'm sure that was not vetted by the National Security Council. That was an effort to try to be strong. Or that Russia was a regional power and 30 days later Ukraine was invaded by the Russians. Or that the much vaunted reset button to make his administration look different than his predecessors, and then nothing to follow up. Or the pivot to Asia. Grandiose language in a campaign or as President of the United States is something that doesn't help. A leader has to lead and has to be serious about doing it. And I think I have those skills and I have the life experience to make me a commander-in-chief, not a divider-in-chief or an agitator-in-chief.
All right, I'm going to switch gears for us here.
Yeah, let's get back to it.
So aside from wanting to be president, what is on your personal bucket list?
Wow. Can I tell you another story real quick? Sure. Wikipedia, when you have to introduce someone, you go to Wikipedia normally, right? I do. So did this guy. He didn't know me. So I was trying to find something that I had in common with Jeb Bush. And so I went to Wikipedia, and I found that he had a secret desire to be a Hollywood actor and that he was an avid rock climber. Neither of which are completely true. And apparently there's a game that goes on in Wikipedia where people that have a lot of idle time play a game with their friends to see what they can get into Wikipedia sites and see how long they can stay. And they play a game, the one that says the most interesting thing, wins points or something.
It's a great game. I'm in the league.
So this guy, I had to admit it, like, I had no interest in being a Hollywood actor, and none. And I'm from Miami. I mean, the largest mountain in Miami is Mount Trashmore. You know, and I'm not going to climb that. So my bucket list, I don't know.
Places you want to see.
I've seen
hobbies.
almost everything that around the world. I want to see my grandkids grow up. I love my grandchildren, and it's the coolest thing to see them grow up. I can't wait for Georgia's high school graduation. The things that we all take for granted are becoming more and more powerful and meaningful for me now that it's the second time around. I was going so fast the first time around that I think I missed some of the really cool parts of your children's development.
What is your favorite thing to do with your grandchildren?
I like Sunday Fun Day. I like cooking out on the grill and watching them play. Georgia's got an incredible imagination, and Vivian's right behind her. They live in Miami. My two other grandkids are in Austin. I just like hanging out with them because I don't see them every week. But every Sunday I get to be with my grandkids, and it's a great way to be centered because they don't really care how I'm doing in Iowa. I think they care how I'm doing in New Hampshire, just for the record.
Governor, you're looking to win the Republican nomination and then go on and hopefully, obviously, win the general election.
Yeah.
In order to do so, you're going to have a very strong Republican base behind you and then be able to appeal to a lot of independents and hopefully Democrats. But in order to get a strong Republican base, you have to be able to identify with the Republican voters. And as a Republican myself, and a relatively young one, I'm a little concerned that the Republican Party, has been sort of moving away from young voters rather than helping to bring them into the fold. What do you think the Republican Party is doing well to attract young voters, such as myself, and what do we need to be doing better?
Well, I think the Republican Party is doing better embracing the communication technologies that are so important for millennials and younger people in general. We're catching up, which is good. I think our message is better when we are hopeful and optimistic, and when we talk about the future, not how bad things are today, but how they can be made significantly better. Because we're on the verge of the greatest time to be alive, but we have these barriers that if we break through, we'll see it. More and more people will see it, and as such, we'll be more optimistic. And I think young people can play a constructive role in that. I think we also have to recognize that the big elephant in the room as it relates to, for young people, are the fact that we've not fixed the entitlement problems in our country. And I find it remarkable that there's not enough anger amongst your generation, to be honest with you, because if we do nothing, you're not going to get anything. I mean, the power of compounding just overwhelms how we fund anything. We're not going to have community development block grants, I can promise you that. So-called discretionary spending will be eaten up. Our military will be gutted. The growth of Medicare, Medicaid, Obamacare, and Social Security, which is not an entitlement, but a retirement, supplemental retirement system, the unfunded liabilities are in the tens of trillions of dollars. And if we don't start fixing that now, it'll be harder and harder to do it. So that, to me, is the one way that we should be able to connect, is to say, look, we're going to give you opportunity by fixing the sins of the past. And I don't know if that's going to resonate among young people, but it should, if you think about it, because without fixing that, you're left with a bill that is not going to be able to be paid. So I don't know, we're all in. I mean, we have 300 different college campus organizations. We have a YP effort, we call it, which my sons are heading up, and we're making good, steady progress across the board politically. But I think on the issue side, it's got to be focused on the economy and focusing on how fixing the part of government that is completely broken.
So unfortunately, we're running out of time, but I'm going to turn it over to Kate, who has one final question to kind of wrap things up.
Sure. So today's theme was Life of the Party.
Yep.
And you had the chance to address these YPs in the room today. So if you were to give a toast to these folks on the journey ahead for you and things they should be keeping in mind, what would you say?
Well, for them, it's to embrace the unforeseen. Be big, be bold. Don't go home. Be alive, and don't worry about it being planned out. My toast is for you all to embrace the unforeseen, because it's an extraordinary time to be your age. I'd rather be your age than mine. Knowing what I know now, if I could give up everything that I've earned in my life experience and start over again, as long as I could do it with my wife, this is the most amazing time to be alive. And my toast to you and my hope for you is that you believe that, because you can make it happen if you believe it.
Well, on behalf of the panel, I want to thank you all for being here today. We want to thank Bank of America for their support in making this program possible. We want to thank Stay Work Play for pulling this together, and for the New Hampshire Institute of Politics at St. Anselm College for being our host. And most importantly, thank you, Governor Jeb Bush, for being here today.
Thank you. Thank you, Kate.
Nice to see you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Best of luck, Governor.
Yeah, thank you. We'll see you back here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Off to New York. I'll be back tomorrow, though.
There we go. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good seeing you.
Did the picture taker get one as well?
Yeah. Here you go, Coleman. Coleman, do it.
Yep. You got it.
Watch him do this. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hi, can I get a picture with you?
Yeah, sure.
I actually grew up on Parsons Beach, so it was really
You
close.
did?
Yeah.
Wow.
And my parents used to
All
ski a
winter?
lot down in Kennebunk. Yeah, it was pretty cold down there.
Oh, God. There you go.
But you're actually used to run from my parents down on Parsons Beach. My parents used to walk down there all the time, so it was pretty cool growing up.
It's beautiful.
Getting to see it all.
That's so pretty.
Yeah.
I mean, you're living in a national estuary.
Yeah, it was definitely cold during the winter, but it was nice during the summer.
I bet. Hi.
Thanks for being out here.
Thank
How are
you
you?
so much for coming.
Yeah,
Is there
thank
any way
you.
I can get a picture?
Yeah, of course.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hi.
Thank you so much for coming.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Hey. Is there any way that I can get a picture with
Of
you?
course you
Okay,
can.
thank you.
No reason to ask.
Thank you so much. I learned a lot.
Thank you. I don't know about that, but I appreciate you being here. What did you learn?
I learned a lot about politics. I don't really know a lot
Yeah?
about the policies.
You go to
and
school
stuff.
here?
I do, yeah. I'm a nursing
Well, this is a
major.
place to do it. Are you? Fantastic.
Yeah.
It's a great profession.
Yeah, I love it so far, so I'm excited.
What do you? Are you a senior?
Freshman.
Freshman?
Yeah.
Oh, you got a while to go then.
May I get a picture?
Yeah. Thank you. Take care.
Would we could be able to get a picture with you?
Absolutely. Coleman?
Thank you.
You got everybody?
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much for coming.
Take care.
Thank you.
Happy holidays. Merry
You too.
Christmas.
Thanks.
Take care.
Governor, how you doing?
Doing well.
Good to see you. Nick Petronellis from the Senior Congress. I wanted to ask you a question before we take.
You want a picture?
I do.
Let's do it right here.
First.
1, 2, 3. There you got it.
Thank you. So my question was, I just wrote a thesis about political activism and service in America.
Yeah.
And so what I wanted to know is what are your thoughts about trying to kind of bring that kind of spirit of activism and volunteering kind of back into the American people and kind of bringing that optimism back? What would you kind of do?
Well, one way to do it is to look at Stanley McChrystal. Did you write about
Yes,
him?
I have. Yeah,
I mean, I think that's one of the ways to do it, not to necessarily mandate public service, but make it easier for people to pursue their passions at a younger age. And once you do it, it becomes a lifelong pursuit. I mean, that's the benefit of this is once you get engaged to improve the human condition or serve in the military or to do whatever, teach for America, you end up becoming a servant your entire life. And the founding of our country is based on this. I mean, we're a self-governing people. We actually, all of the freedoms that we have are all free from government. We're all protecting ourselves from an overreaching government, and that works when we can govern ourselves. And that only works when you have people that are actively involved in trying to improve the lives of others.
Is there any kind of specific plan that you would kind of put out there, or talk about this more on the campaign trail?
I'm hopefully going to talk to McChrystal because what I've read about what he's advocating is something that's very intriguing, but I haven't had a chance to meet with him yet.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. Good luck to you.
Hi, Governor.
How you doing?
I'm great, thank you. My name's Erin. I'm actually with an organization called Service Nation.
Oh, yeah?
So I really support, I'm so appreciative
What is
of
Service
your
Nation?
So we're an organization that's trying to build a movement around national service. So I really appreciate
Who's
all
in charge of it?
McChrystal's on the
that's
board.
the group. But he's your big
He is.
public
He's
advocate.
one of our big advocates, yes. And,
Yeah.
and Alan Casey, who has started City
Who's the
Hero.
CEO?
Alan Casey. And,
So he's
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I love the concept. Makes a lot of sense. I mean, I just think
really
it's
appreciate your support.
people. There's so much joy that comes from having a servant's heart.
Absolutely.
If it's all about you, a person, it's always life centers around people's own personal pursuits. I don't think you get the same benefit in life.
Absolutely.
At least that's been my personal experience.
Absolutely.
Well, that was
thank
a
you
nice,
so much. We really appreciate
nice combo. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Take care.
Appreciate
Yeah.
it.
Hey, how we doing?
Pretty good. Finally, a candidate who's like reasonably tall.
Yeah. Actually, if I'm president, I'll be the tallest president in American history.
Definitely
Surprise
gonna
me.
hold that one over your brother.
Lincoln, yeah. Lincoln was half an inch shorter than me.
Thank you. Hi, I'm
Hey,
Kelsey.
very much.
Nice to meet
How are you,
you.
Kelsey?
Good, how
That's
are
a nice
you?
name.
Thank you.
Hey.
Thank you.
Yeah. How you doing?
Andrew, Governor.
Andrew, what's happening?
Not much. You get all your Christmas shopping
Who's
done
this?
yet?
No.
Cass, you gonna take it to me,
Why are
Doc?
you making me feel guilty?
That's what December 24th is for.
Oh, I hate
Like the
that.
light is like shining on it. I'm sorry.
That's what online shopping is for. And
Governor.
going to CVS or Walgreens and buying the little gift cards. That's kind of what it gets down to.
Hi.
Hey.
Great. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you.
There you go.
Thank you.
Hey.
Would you mind taking one?
Yeah.
Governor, we've been waiting very patiently.
You win the Patience Award. Hang on. Take off your sticker.
Hi.
That's your camera, right?
Yeah.
Okay. It looks better without the sticker.
Thanks.
You know who you are, right?
I do. Thanks,
a lot.
Governor.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Take care.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Hey,
Hi.
how we doing?
My name's Cassandra. I'm a junior here.
Hey, Cassandra. It's all boiling down to pretty much we're running out of real people here.
My name's Rachel.
You're not a real person, I apologize, but you know that. How you doing, Rachel?
Good, how are you? It's great
I'm
to meet
fantastic,
you.
thank you.
Governor, can we ask you a question?
No, I'm going to do these pictures. Right here. Thank you. Hey, how you
Nice
doing?
to meet you. I'm Tommy.
Hey, Tommy. Where's your kid? Right there. Okay. Good luck to you.
Thank you. It was good to hear from you.
Thank you.
Very good speaker.
Thank you.
Very much more relatable than I thought any of the other candidates were. So
Great. I'm glad you said that in front of cameras. I'm sure that'll make the national news. You got it? With me on that.
Oh, okay.
Don't laugh out loud.
Look at it.
Look at that. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Thank you.
I was very impressed to see you speak.
Thank you.
Your commercials are outstanding. I think. I just hope people realize what you're trying to say.
Good. I hope so too. I got. If you were in front of those kids at the Citadel,
Yeah,
you would have.
sure. Well, my son graduated from West Point, so
Wow.
I know where you're coming from. So anyway,
Brilliant,
thank
young, patriotic kids are pretty inspiring.
What would be your number one domestic economy?
Higher growth. Rising income for the middle class is really the great challenge of our times. You've got bad policies combined with just globalization and big changes in technology are making it hard. I mean, you can build factories today with 1/10 the workers,
right.
That are extraordinarily efficient, but we're not generating the kind of high-wage jobs that we need to generate.
Absolutely.
And that's a secular trend that is getting worse. Put aside the bad, in my opinion at least, horrific policies as it relates to taxes and regulation.
Good. Well, I'm very glad to have
Thank you, Larry.
met you.
Appreciate you. Hey,
Hi, I'm Tori.
how are you? Good to meet you too. There are a few more real people behind the cameras.
You got a picture taken with your dad 25
Get
years
in
ago.
Where was that, here?
No, at my high school in Derry.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Hey,
nice to meet you. I'm Pat.
Hey Pat, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Happy holidays to you. Merry
you.
Christmas.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hi.
Hi.
How you doing?
Good. name's Talia Grodman.
Nice to meet
Your
you.
father was at our house in 1987.
You weren't born yet.
Nope, I wasn't.
How do you know that?
My dad told me.
You got pictures on the wall?
Uh-huh.
What town was that?
In Manchester.
Oh, fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hey, how you doing, buddy?
Good.
There you go.
Thanks.
Good luck to you. Take care.
But she didn't take the picture.
Aw.
I really want one.
I can promise you Coleman won't let you down.
Thank you so much.
Take care.
Governor, can I get
You want a picture?
Wait
a second.
Can I come in?
I'm trying to extend this out.
Thank you. I'm with Stay Workplace, so thank
Are
you
you?
for coming today. Yes.
What's it called here? What's the state workplace called?
Stay Workplace.
Oh, that's what it's. Oh,
Yes,
state
that's our
work play. I
organization.
thought you said workplace, like the Department of Labor. 1, 2, 3. The Florida workforce thing is called something similar.
Okay. Very nice.
Not workplace, but I mean work and play. It's work. You know, the job training
logistics.
stuff.
Excellent. Thank you.
Okay, a couple of questions.
The Israeli Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu's come out and condemned Donald Trump's comments. I was just hoping for your reaction.
He's right. It's not going to help the security of Israel. It's not going to help the security of the United States. It pushes away allies that are necessary and essential to destroy ISIS and to bring about security in the Middle East. Mr. Trump's not a serious person. He's not a serious candidate. He's inflammatory, and he makes the task for the next president a lot harder.
Do you think he makes the solving the Israeli-Palestinian conflict harder?
The Israeli-Palestinian conflict is never going to be solved until the Palestinians themselves recognize Israel's right to exist as a Jewish state and safe and secure borders. And until they do that, there's no need to even begin that conversation. But these comments also make it harder to destroy ISIS, which is the war of our time. And Islamic terrorism has to be ridden of for the world to get to other issues. And the idea that you would push away potential allies that because of our weakness and because of our vacillation by this administration aren't as interested in aligning with us, this makes that harder. Makes it just sends a signal to the world that we're not serious. And it's basically Barack Obama, the other version of it, which is to push people down, to divide the country. And our country is not going to succeed unless we have a set of common purposes to be able to go forward.
Governor Bush, you talked yesterday about Donald Trump playing the press and the media like a fine violin. What can you do to sort of retake the narrative and change the focus?
Not answering more questions about Donald Trump.
You've been thanking audiences for letting you complete sentences. Is that kind of a nod in that direction?
Well, it is refreshing, isn't it, to have a conversation rather than to have 140 characters drive a campaign. We're electing a president of the United States, and giving people the full measure of a person is part of that process, which is why I like New Hampshire. New Hampshire takes its first in the nation primary status, really seriously, and I don't think they're going to support a person who, in the end, is not a serious candidate. It kind of damages their brand.
Do you think it disqualifies him, like the White House spokesman said yesterday?
Look, he's not a serious candidate, and he's had the chance to have a second act here. He's a gifted politician. I'm not saying that as a compliment. He's a gifted politician. He knows how to prey on people's fears and their angst, and he is gifted beyond belief in doing this, and he's a great entertainer. But he's been the front-running candidate now for 5 months, and he hasn't said, wow, I might be president. I might have to learn who's the head of the Quds forces and why it matters, or how are we going to create a strategy to unify the world against ISIS. He's not taken it to the next level. Other candidates have, and he hasn't. See you guys.
We gotta go.
Take care. Sure. He's back.
He's back.
How you doing, Joe?
Okay. We were just talking about.
You saw my man here?
Yeah. No, he was fabulous on NBC yesterday.
Yeah, he's fabulous all the time. He's unencumbered by anything.
Can I give you a tip about veterans?
About what?
Veterans.
Yeah.
I just wrote this book called Charlie Mike, which is about veterans as assets, not liabilities.
Yeah.
These two guys, one of them's running for governor of Missouri as a Republican.
And who's the other?
The other is this guy Jake Wood, who started Team Rubicon, which does disaster relief.
Oh yeah, I've heard about him.
They're both,
you may have told me about him.
They're
last time
both
we were here.
spectacular. So what I was at a Hillary town meeting last night, and 25 questions, not a single one about security policy.
Really?
Two, not one.
You said our town meeting, it was almost all about it.
2 questions about veterans, both of them special pleading. And what Eric Wright, the guy who is a former Navy SEAL running for governor of Missouri, tells veterans isn't just thank you for your service, but we still need you.
Yeah.
And it really is important to distinguish them from victims to make them, because 90% of them, according to the polls, want to continue service when they come home.
This is McChrystal's advocacy as well, which we just talked about. There's a young man who's 22 years old who is just out of the Marines. 22 years old, so he graduated from high school, bam, he was in
3 years, right?
And he's now in South, he's working for his, South Boston, working for his dad, and gosh, it's like strong, just articulate, talked about homelessness, veterans homelessness, and how do we empower veterans basically to, how do we get veterans reconnected? Because he told the experience, and this is such a true story, that one of the things that happens is the DOD doesn't tell the Veterans Administration or state governments or anybody when people are leaving. And it seems to me, just as we do with prison reentry, 6 months prior, you start kind of planning it out.
When they de-rose out, they give them nothing. They get nothing. If they're disabled.
Not only that, but after
they don't assess what their challenges are. They don't see what their skills are. There should be a total assessment of what their strengths are, so they could show up. Because there's these entities where you can do this, and they're accepted by most employers. You should be able to go in and say, here, I've taken this test, here's what my skills are, here's what here's my file in the military. Bam, you're going to get a job.
Rubicon has an app that does that. If you're a veteran, you can find out where other veterans are in your community. You can find out how to do it.
But their main thing is disaster recovery and disaster relief.
But they're also now into suicide prevention since one of their 3 founders committed suicide.
I saw these 2 guys that were, it was on television. They had a telethon. Is that right? Does that make sense?
Might have. These 2 guys, my 2 guys were on Colbert about the night before Thanksgiving.
Well, it wasn't that. It was a concert in Washington, in the mall in Washington, organized by a group, and they held great entertainers and everything, but they highlighted Team Rubicon.
But the thing, the thing is that I said to him before, we're trying to do. He said, "What do you think is going on here?" I said, "We're trying to do democracy without citizenship," and these kids, 100% of them volunteer.
Yeah, that's a great point.
They're really different.
Because a lot of the questions are really about the problems and not about how you maximize people's potential, the capacity. It's a great advice.
When I embedded with them, I saw them governing towns in Afghanistan. So anyway,
maybe they should.
You got to go.
Governor Ritchie, you endorsing Governor Bush?
Yes, they are.
You haven't heard that?
Is he with you already?
No,
Good coverage, Ed.
I'm just having a conversation.
Where have you been? You talking about Joe endorsing?
No, not Joe.
Really? Yeah, he's totally on board.
Yeah?
He's been public. Great work.
Okay. It makes sense.
He needs
to
some
hear
work on
Governor
the
Bush.
Oh, been for a long time. What do you want me to know?
There you go.
I'm sorry. I
okay.
talked about Jennifer.
You're trying to give him some vote for
Thank you.
No, he's very much his own man, but I would tell you this, it's my privilege to be associated with him in his campaign. He's going to go to New York. I'm going to hang around for a couple of days and campaign for him. And then I'll be back. I'll be back.
Party needs someone like him as opposed to Trump, is your job.
Well, I think the country needs somebody like him opposed to everybody else that's out there. I mean, this is one of the few candidates that's the only candidate that I know that, because of a variety of experiences, has a much broader global view than anybody else. There's a difference between giving speeches and governing, and I think that's very significant. You can be a transformational agent. You have to be responsible for change or accountable for it. But I think what's most unique about the man is that he probably understands the world, and nobody gives him enough credit for it better than anybody else, because he's seen it through, whether people like it or not, he's seen it through the experience of his dad, who was a warrior and a pilot and a CIA director and a president. His brother was president. So his exposure to the world, both the opportunities as well as the challenges, I think, is rather unique among all the candidates.
Are you worried at all that some of the more kind of experienced, quote unquote serious candidates right now seem to be splitting the vote a bit here? It's not, they all seem to be so closely clustered.
The only thing I'm worried about is making sure that I can spend all my time getting Governor Bush nominated. I mean, I think the reality is that, and I wish I would have made this statement, but I'm going to tell you I did. I'm going to copy it. Somebody said about a month ago, we're now in the elimination phase. That field of 16 or 20 is going to narrow down, then we'll get into the selection phase. And Governor Bush is in it for the long haul, and I think that because of who he is, what he's done, his global view, and I think a desire for solid, thoughtful leadership. And as you said before, loud, the decibel level does not mean strength, and I think he projects that. I mean, you watched him today. You've observed him. You saw his interaction with these young people, and he gets it. And he appeals. He's got the broadest possible appeal across the board of any of the Republican candidates.
Well, you know the region well. How important do you think New Hampshire is, and doing well in New Hampshire, to start and to consolidate people around that? How important is it as a launching pad for that?
Well, I think. I've been up here many times over multiple years with different candidates, and I think in every campaign, while they pay attention to the caucuses in Iowa, there's so much energy, resources, and time spent because of the retail nature of politics in New Hampshire. This is a state. Take your politics seriously. There's a lot of personalities involved, but I think ultimately this is a state where people start peeling back the layers of personality to see what's in people's heart, what's in people's heads, and then when they do that, they're going to see their leader is Jeb. But I think it's a very unique format. That's why so many candidates spend so much time here, because they respect how seriously folks in this state take the business of selecting the nominee.
Mm-hmm. So no one's treating it as a joke here?
Beg your pardon?
You don't think the voters here are treating this as a joke here? I mean, you think they're really looking resume maybe harder than even some other states, or?
No, I don't know who said it decades ago, but once he met a voter up here for the 6th or 7th time, he felt the voter kind of got to know him. Mm-hmm. I think that's the beauty of the retail politics. I've been up here with multiple candidates, town meeting to town meeting to town meeting, home event, 15 people here, 20 people here, maybe if you're lucky you have 100 or 200. That's retail politics at its best.
Could I ask you just one quick national security question, since I understand that's your area of expertise? Donald Trump is reportedly, according to Jerusalem Post, considering visiting the Al-Aqsa Mosque in Israel. Obviously, there's been a lot of tension over there. Do you have any concerns that might inflame the region or ways it might impact here?
I think Donald Trump is about celebrity, he's about publicity, he's not about bringing a serious mindset and an inquiring head into a mindset toward trying to address the wide range of security challenges in this country. And again, everybody will follow him if he goes with their cameras, and he'll probably say something outrageous, and people will follow that, and then people will be distracted from the real business of selecting somebody that's got a broader worldview that doesn't have to hop on a plane in order to visit a site in order to get a better appreciation of the problem. So it's more about theater and about him than it is about providing, in my judgment, because I'm one of the few Republicans not going to vote for him ever. That I just don't think. I think he demeans the process, and I just think he's. And I said this yesterday, but you probably heard of that. I think he's an embarrassment to the party. I think he's an embarrassment to my country, and I think my country deserves a lot better than Donald.
So how does your party get rid of him?
In time will tell. Stay tuned.
But is it dangerous? You're worried having someone out there representing America in such a sensitive region?
Well, I think. Listen, I said I feel very strongly that his comments with regard to Muslims, and I don't know how people try to spin it, feeds into the ISIS narrative. It's us against them. Well, all of a sudden you got a leading Republican candidate and say, we don't want any Muslims coming to this country. And the other person that's really responsible for that as well, I'm going to tell you, I think is President Obama. I'll give the President Obama, he wants to draw a red line and really mean it, then he could use that speech the other night to say, over here we've got hundreds of millions, maybe billion plus peace-loving Muslims globally. We have 8 or 9 million in the United States. And right across here we have a small group of Islamic radicals who have wrapped themselves in this perverted ideology and interpretation of the Quran. That's the president's job, not to tell us that we shouldn't not to accuse us of not making the distinction. He's the man that needs to make the distinction, to distinguish between all those peaceful, loving Muslims and contributing, raising their families, contributing to the United States on their own, and the radical Islam. But of course he can't say that. And he's unwilling to say it, which means he's unwilling to draw that line in the sand.
Thanks for letting me pester you so much, Governor.
Strong widow to follow. Talk to you guys later.
Take care, Governor. Hopefully your right didn't leave.